Hello and welcome everybody back to the Dumbass class with me, the Dyslexic Gamer. As we carry on our RPG night with some more Warhammer Fantasy 2nd edition, Mordheim City of the Damned, A Leaf Too Far. In the last episode, I scared the player characters by taking away their weapons and having them meet a very paranoid... what else is he? They met Lord Gale Gallion, who, through the people around him, had managed to convince him that he was, in a way, cursed, or that all of his misfortune was due to luck, and he had to do something to regain that luck. His efforts grew ever more and more mad and obscure and obscene and just completely crazy. After his good friend, Lord Malleus von Humperdinck, came to Lord Gallion's estate, he was welcomed coldly, and Lord Malleus did not approve of this. Once he saw his old friend surrounded by guards just to meet him, some harsh words were said, and only as a true friend can do, Lord Gale was slapped out of his madness. A night of drinking and dangerous play with parlour guns had taken place, and that was the end of the matter. The party was shown to Lord Gale's villa, which is attached to the side of his, essentially a small castle that he himself lives in, and the villa is for his guests. The group found that they were extremely well suited for these lush apartments, where each of them had a goose down feather bed and washing facilities, and even a library where they could do some studying. I believe some of you did studying, others just relaxed, and some of you had a drink after your ordeal with Lord Gale. So it's the next morning. You were awoken to the sounds of kitchenware clanging. Not loudly, just it sounds as if people were placing placing cutlery on a table and placing goods down.
Okay.
Would any of you be awake? Would you awaken to the sounds of cutlery and the slow smells of freshly baked bread and bacon and egg? Well, eggs don't really smell, but
Probably eventually, as the smells can I get.
Riley is most likely awake because, I mean, she's a hunter. She's an early bird.
okay. So Aurelia, you would notice first of all that the staff, as they come in, they're very polite to you. They see that you're awake and in hushed tones greet you good morning and place out different foodstuffs. You would notice that they do put a large variety of vegetables and fruits on the table, clearly not being too sure if you're going to be accepting of bacon and eggs.
Really, in this universe, always eat meat, so Riley will accept the food, but she will eat mostly vegetables and just a little bit of meat. She doesn't know where this meat comes from. She doesn't know if it was properly taken meat, so she'll
It's the
think
children. You
Oh,
killed.
if it was a children, she would be munching down on the meat, but it's not. So. But so she's just gonna take the food, thank the servants, and she's gonna eat quietly, and then she's gonna go back to the library. Where it's quiet.
Okay. The food is left. It doesn't appear as if they're cooking for you all fresh. This is the fresh food that was made and has been placed on the table. It will be there for some time as you all awaken and decide to help yourselves. There is a watered down beer, a couple of jugs that are on the table. There's a few pots of what appear to be hot water with something in. You're not quite sure what. At least the elves aren't. The humans could roll an intelligence test. The dwarf would also have to roll an intelligence test. This is not something you would normally come across as adventurers.
Okay.
What test?
Intelligence.
Oh, damn, I'm great at that.
Oh.
I say that it's not actually that bad.
Well,
Just straight intelligence?
yeah, just straight intelligence. Magnus, you have heard of this, being a boatsman all your life, or for a large part of your life. You've transported goods
Oof.
quite often, and you remember one bag was split once, and a few of these brown seed-like things fell out, and the person transporting them, I think he called them coffee or some description, but you've never had it before. There's quite a warm smell that comes off of the pots, off the steam, and
Coffee. Sounds like something they'd bring from Lustria.
Uh,
Knows
more
what
Arabi.
Lustria is.
They're both, I think.
I think it is both Lustria and Araby, and also Tilia. But Tilia doesn't grow it. They basically bring it in from Lustria and Araby.
Mm.
So, you're informed, for all of you who gather, that you actually have the morning to yourselves. The lords indulged last night and have not yet stirred, and the servants give you an idea that when Lord Gale does stir, he's gonna need a few hours just to regain Contus Mentis, thinking and understanding. So
They did solve their dispute in a righteous way, aka getting shit-faced together.
And shooting each other.
Yeah, there was shooting too.
at each other, none of them hit. So yeah.
Yeah, but still. It's a good way to vent.
So for those of you who want to spend some more time in the library, you can. For those of you who just want to sit and relax, you can. Anyone who was wounded when they went to sleep, you have regained an extra wound. Yeah, you've regained an extra wound. So you would get 2 back because of the luxurious surroundings.
I don't think I've been wounded yet.
Actually, Aurelia is going to walk around the perimeter of the mansion, and she's just gonna look for signs of things being out of place or weird, because she's still kind of weirded out by the people, even though she
Okay.
understands what's going on. She's just gonna walk around the perimeter.
So
Check for
as
goblin
you
feet and stuff
walk
like that.
around, you would see a number of things that you didn't notice yesterday as you're walking up. For a start, as you see any staff about, any of the servants, they all greet you warmly. They curtsy, they bow. Morning, miss. Morning, ma'am. The guards as well greet you with a smile, and they all seem more relaxed. The rigidness that was there yesterday has gone. You even see as you come round the corner of one of the estate's walls, you see a couple of servants engaging in just general conversation, which is something yesterday you did not see when you first arrived. You also see a number of servants who appear to be working on the house. Not structurally. You see a lot of ladders up against walls and a lot of servants on step ladders reaching up to the eaves on the outside walls. And they appear to be taking down lucky charms, trinkets, dream catchers. And you kind of notice this on all different sides of the estate as you wander around the whole perimeter. That in some places it was placed on the northern wall, and you see that there's a group of people who over at the northern wall seem to be taking down some structure that had been erected there. In other places you can see, like I said, the wind chimes and the dream catchers have been removed and are in the process of being put away.
Okay. I'm mostly gonna go around and just watching the people, and again, I'm gonna look around the perimeter of the place to see if there's anything weird, Jim. Other than that, I'm just gonna walk. So that's what Laurel's gonna be doing until she's called.
Casper's going to go to the library, and instead of reading books from the library, I'm going to try and investigate these notes I got from the cart. Kind of trying to do it a little bit sneakily. But...
So you all have a room, a private room, which you can do stuff in. The library you would have to contend with other people coming in and going.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Okay, so you go into your room, wondering if no, there probably wouldn't be. So you go into your room. Perhaps you take a drink in with you or an extra book. You close the door, lock it, and begin looking at the notes that you found in the cart. As you place them out and you begin to look at them, some of these are hand-drawn notes that have scribbles, and it looks like every inch of parchment has been utilized in writing something down. You try and read what's written, and it's clearly not a language. You would very quickly gather that this has been written with a cipher or a code. It would take some time to break the handwritten notes. The other pages, as you lay them out, you kind of judge how many are, okay, that's parchment, that's something else, that's parchment, that's definitely like calf skin or some untreated leather. That's, okay, parchment, something else. Kind of looks like leather, but it's treated. It's not like the calf skin, it's different. You're not quite sure what, but you carry on and you split them up. You end up with 7 pages of parchment that are clearly hand-drawn notes.
Okay.
You get 5 of other that you're not quite sure what it is. And then you've got 4 of calf skin. Which ones would you like to investigate first?
I think the calf skin. calf skin. That was the 4 calf skin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you take out the calf skin, you can tell that it's got to be a young animal, because the leather is, the skin side is very fine and still quite flexible, and yet the fur side is very soft and very small bristly hair. You look at what's been drawn. It looks as if it's positions, and this hasn't been, it doesn't have any writing on it. It has more of imagery. As you look at the first one, and then you lay the second and the third and the fourth out, you can see that each one is different, but at the same time each one has something very similar about it. Each one has a circle with an 8-pointed star in the middle, but the iconography that goes round the side is all different for each one, and the way that essentially the stick figure people are arrayed around are all different. In some cases it's all men that are drawn around, and then you clearly see something weeping from the men. In other cases, so for one it's men, for one it's women, for another it's mixed, and then for another they're tiny individuals. You're not sure if that's meant to signify dwarves, halflings, or children.
Okay.
Can you roll me an intelligence test? So what we'll do is we'll do these as essentially you're spending an hour on each roll that you do.
Okay.
We'll say it's early-ish, so after eating, washing, getting yourself ready. We'll say it's about 10 o'clock now, so you've got 4 hours until you're going to be called. So you can do 4 rolls at the moment on these items that you want to research.
Okay.
You won't get any bonus from the library because it doesn't have anything that would help you with this kind of stuff. If it did, it would be very worrying.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I'm kind of assuming these are like, you mentioned the 8-pointed star. It's the, I think one of them would look similar to the ritual star we were at. Are the ritual
Yes,
icon?
you could definitely look at the, like, thinking back at the one that you saw and how people were arrayed and how it was drawn, and the wording in a way, the images that were arrayed around it. You could definitely put one aside, which would be the third one, which was men and women,
Okay.
and say, okay, so that's definitely got something to do with what was going on there. I would probably give you a +10 on the roll, but you'd have to take a -20 for not knowing exactly what it is.
Fair enough. So -10.
-10.
Right, so 36. Come on, Knuckles. No. 75.
Okay, so you know that it's ritualistic. You would definitely be able to put those two things together, but you don't know what exact area this would be. If it's for summoning reinforcement, if it's for a wide area spell, if it's, you just don't know. But you know it's got to do with a ritual of some kind. You could guess that from the way that it's drawn, that the one, I believe it's the one that shows them weeping, which was the one with men. That clearly, now that you've put, now that you think about the way in which that was more likely blood than tears.
Okay, yeah. Right. So knowing that these are uh, definitely something to do with a ritual, they can't work it out, but I'm going to put them away for now and take out the parchment. I can study the ritual signs later. I'm not going to understand it. So trying to decipher these parchments that were just covered in text, wasn't it? Covered in scribbles
Yeah.
and writing.
So as you look at the parchment and you lay them out in front of you, putting away the calf skin, and perhaps you've taken some cloth from somewhere and you kind of cover them up. Give me an intelligence test. This would be flat, but you're not doing an intelligence test to try and break the code. If I could put two tests together, which I might do. In fact, yeah, if you give me an intelligence test flat and a perception test flat. Is it perception or awareness? No, it's perception.
Okay. Okay, so intelligence first. 23. Success and sorry, perception. Thank God I'm trained.
Okay, so as you lay out the parchment in front of you, this takes an hour of you just moving the parchments around and picking it up and not looking at the words, because without the cipher there's no way of breaking it. And you don't know any ciphers as far as I'm aware, so you study the parchment and it takes you longer than you would have liked before you notice that, hang on, the way you haven't been putting them back in order. You've picked one up, put that down, picked another one up, put that down, and after your hour has passed, you look down and you see that 2 pages have lines on the right and left hand side, and they've joined up. You quickly scan the other pages to look for lines around the edges, and after another couple of moments you see, okay, so if that line goes to there and then that line goes to there, okay, so perhaps this is the order in which they're read. Maybe you put them all in order.
Okay.
You can give me a perception test. I'm wondering, would you have... It'd be early, so it'd be quite bright. Give me a perception test with a +10. If you want to spend another hour examining trying to see if there's a cipher within the pages.
Could I use read-write to find the cipher? Because I think it actually says in the skill book, or in the book about skills.
I wasn't aware read and write dealt with ciphers, but if it does, then by all means you could use that.
I want to double check because I think I almost took the +10 in read-write. Use the skill to read or write any language you can speak. Under normal circumstances, skill tests are not required to read and write. However, they may be called for to decipher obscure phraseology, archaic usage, or unusual idioms.
It seems to be more like to understand the writing than actually cracking a cipher.
Yeah. If I knew the language, I would probably be able to use it to try
I
and
would
decipher.
probably say you could use it if it's if you've got a bonus in it. Can't remember what read and write works off. I think it's intelligence. So if you've got a plus 10 to it, then by all means you can roll read and write.
I'm just trained in it, although I do have plus 10 due to linguistics.
Yep, that would apply because, again, it's not a cipher that we would use in the modern world. It's a medieval cipher, so it's going to be far simpler than what we would come up with nowadays. So you could you can use read and write.
Caesar-like.
It's more complicated than swapping the alphabet around, but it wouldn't be much more complicated than moving letters around and changing the orders.
Okay. So read write.
Read and write. I wouldn't give you a bonus, but any skills or talents, they do apply.
Okay. Yeah. Hey.
So as you spend your third hour looking at the pages in order, and you're looking at the lines, and you flick through the pages, the lines from as you flick the right side through your fingers seems to imply that it's 3 dashes and it stops, and then there's 3 dashes, and as you flick from the top up, there's 2 dashes and then a stop, 2 dashes, and as you go from the left to right, you see the 3 again, and when you flick from the bottom, you see the 2. You quickly take out a pen, and I'll say it's a noble's guest place. I imagine there's a little writing table with a small small pen, quill and ink there, and a few pieces of parchment, and you quickly write out the alphabet, and you move the numbers, the letters around. You move them by 3 and then by 2 all the way along. And as you take in this information and absorb it, and you start, right, okay, the first page, you start to slowly decipher it and begin to write down what you believe is correct. And as you're writing, you are reading the words, and because they're all now readable, not just a jumble of letters. This takes you the rest of that hour. So you've used up 3 hours now that you have deciphered the parchment. And as you spend the last few moments of that hour reading the parchment, it speaks about this person's tests, this person's experiments. Clearly, this was a mage of some sort, but you're not entirely sure which college he would have been with, if at all, after seeing the end results. But the first page reads that he has controlled his power. He now knows how to pull the powers from the winds of magic, how to direct the force. And then within that same parchment, which that writing style changes ever so slightly in each case when he's writing it. It seems in some cases it's smudged, and you get the idea that perhaps water is dropping if he's writing in the rain, or if he himself and the parchment are damp, where the word almost smudges completely. It seems to be a diary and part experiment, part of him keeping a written track of what he's been doing with his powers and how he's advanced. But there's very clearly on the same piece of parchment towards the end, 3/4 of the way down, where you specifically read, "Last night I dreamed of the dancing prince. He came to me and offered me the power that I seek, for naught but a sacrifice, a curse. He came to me in my dreams and offered me all that I desired, if only I could set him to peace. All I have to do is break a curse." And that's probably the last of the lucid description, writings. As you go through the second page, it gets darker, and his dreams no longer seem to speak of someone offering him what he wants, but demanding it. "The prince demands my allegiance. The prince demands that I obey. He comes to me in my dreams. He offers me such pleasures, such ideas, but asks for such darker things." By page 4, he starts talking about what he's been doing. "The prince came to me and asked that I perform 4 trials, for 4 lords of power, for 4 great beings. I must do 4 tasks and come to him and set him free. Once he is free, I will absorb his power, his legend. His fate will be mine, entwined me, only me. I must perform these 4 tasks soon, or others come to him. He writhes, he calls, he cries. Every night now I do not sleep. Every night he speaks to me." The last page is hardly what you would consider writing. The last page is scribbles and scrapes, and as if a child was writing it, but you managed to decipher it. "The ritual was offered, and I accepted. Power for myself. I would take it. The ritual failed. I was not strong enough, but next time the sacrifice, it will be enough. Sacrifice everything, sacrifice it all. And soon everyone else will know of the prince who dances in my dreams, cries out and tells me that all are unclean." The last scribbles are the ritual of the unclean. There's no more after that. There's space to be for more writings to be performed, but there's nothing else there. You imagine that was the last thing he wrote before your party had stopped whatever ritual he was performing. You can now put one of the calfskin ritual to one side, and that is the ritual of the unclean.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, no. That's the ritual of Berserk Fury. Yeah, I got them mixed up.
Oh. Okay. Alright. So the ritual of Berserk Fury.
Although I
Right.
would give it to you that you could imagine why his writing style seems to have dropped so dramatically after you saw him.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of figured. Also, the slow lack of sanity probably wouldn't help either. Okay. So do I have 1 hour left?
Yes.
Right. So I'm going to keep those cow skins just tucked in away at the bottom of the leg, covered in felt or whatever heck I had to cover them in.
Yep.
The parchment face down, so it looks fine. Just looks normal parchment. I'm going to spend the last hour looking at the unknown material
Sure.
pages.
I will add the parchment is quite dirty. It looks quite well worn, as if someone's gone over it a number of times. But apart from that, it doesn't look out of place.
Okay, that's good.
The others. So if you give me so you can either do a medicine check, or you can do a perception with an intelligence check.
Okay, I don't have medicine, but I can kind of assume what that is now. So, intelligence and perception, or perception and intelligence?
Either way.
Do perception first. Nope. Then do I still do intelligence?
Sure.
Oh.
So as you look at the 5 others, you try and do what you did before and place them out to see if there's any ciphers or any codes around the edges, and there's not. The edges are not cut cleanly. They're very jagged, and although they follow a traditional page shape, they are jagged, as if whoever made these pieces of parchment, because they do have a clean edge, which you find odd. Maybe they were going to put this in a book, and the way they've cut it is just for rough. You're not quite sure why this shape was necessary, but you examine the parchment and the other material, and you begin looking at the imagery drawn onto it. I'm wondering, so from your backstory, you don't have a master, do you? You don't have anyone who showed you magic originally.
No.
You've studied into it.
Yeah.
So the fact that magic is for the layman, you probably would never have seen a spell book. Or at least you may have seen the outside of one. Roll me a 1d100, because you are well travelled, and that means going to taverns.
I do believe I started as a student who had 2 textbooks on necromancy and shyish magic.
It is possible. I'm wondering if in the old world, if they would have drawn a page of a spell book in a student's book, so they could. I think it would be.
Probably not, unless they were specifically students of the college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, roll me a 1d100. You're looking for 1 to 10. I know it's only 10% chance, but well, actually, you did get a 2 on your intelligence. I'll give you to 15. This is for whilst you've been travelling. You may have come into a bar where there was a mage who was skimming through his book, or there was an arrogant mage who was just reading his book openly, knowing that the mundane can't read. They won't know what this is. Essentially, see if Nuffle will give you this.
sake. I'm going to use a fortune point just for the sake of it.
Sure.
So I think this could be cool. No. I did get closer, but no.
You did get 10 closer, but not enough, sadly. You're not quite sure why these are drawn this way. It's very odd, but you would see that each page appears to be drawn in a very similar way. There's a border, and inside of that border there are depictions of very odd things. You're not quite sure. From your magical background, I'll give you that you know it's magical. You know it's some sort of magic, but you don't know which area. However, you do notice that on most of the parchments in different areas of the not parchment but other, in each of them you do see an 8-pointed star.
Okay.
As you investigate the material itself, one side appears to be it's odd. I guess you would say that's the inside, but it's, as you look at it, it doesn't seem as if the ink has wanted to penetrate the parchment. It doesn't look like a very good material for writing on as you look, and you kind of notice that the whatever it is, the imagery is almost smudging a little bit, and you almost see like there's other lines going across, so maybe the guy who was using this had to redraw it every now and then. It's a horrible material as you look at it for actually writing on. Yes, it's flexible and it's springy in a way, but what the fuck is that? As you turn one of the page corners, what is that? That's very. You brush your finger across, and you've never seen parchment with a mole before. You've never seen leather with a mole before, actually. Because you don't have a trade skill to confirm this, until someone who has that knowledge can confirm, you're not sure what the material is. There's some odd things. Notice there's a couple of big like vein capillaries that, although the skin has dried, you can still see that the vein hasn't been removed, which is kind of odd to you. You would have thought that would have been removed, and as you look at the other side of the other material, you brush and you can almost feel as if the vein is still in there, and you don't know any leather that's left like that, but maybe that is how it's done, and they just cut those bits off normally.
Okay.
Sadly, that is your 4 hours up.
Okay.
Livia, I believe you wanted to go into the library as well.
Yeah, she'll just dig in again in between the books.
Was there anything specific that you wanted to read up on, or was it just general knowledge?
It was herbalism and
Oh, it was yes, I remember the
stuff.
yes. So I believe I said you had 2 books of each. One of them wasn't particularly great for the apothecary side, but the other one was much better. There's not really much you need to roll for that. You basically just spend the next 4 hours reading through different plants that grow in this region and what the humans know about nature and medicinal herbs. Is almost a bit of a joke, honestly. Although the the elven race have different names for each herb. There's a few places where you read and it just really, it's actually, you're quite impressed in how they describe the plant, because as you read the description you picture it in your mind, and well, that's not our name for it, but yes, that's the correct herb. We use it in poultices and healing potions, but then you're like shocked when you read that they boil it for 3 days and reduce the material, and you know very well that that it's actually best just to bruise the leaves and apply them into the poultice almost as is. That actually boiling the material will lessen its healing effect, and you find a lot in. Sadly, as you read through, it appears to be the habit of the Hungy to just boil everything to oblivion, but it's an interesting read.
Okay.
Blackhand, would you be doing anything with your morning, afternoon?
Kind of a weird question. I've been looking into it. I know it's I think I'll just read up on metallurgy and blacksmithing and all that kind of stuff.
I imagine there's a few books about metals in the library, simply given that metals are expensive, and having books about different metals and their values and uses and things of that nature can be handy for a merchant noble to have. So sure, you can find some books and you just broaden your horizons. Well, no, you just add to the knowledge that you already have about metallurgy. Magnus, would you do anything with this time?
Probably look after me boat.
Okay.
That's about the extent of what I can do.
Okay. So you pop down to the boat to see the Humperdinck's boat to check on your rowboat. You see that a lot of cargo is being taken off Humperdinck's vessel. You also would notice as you're walking through the town, it seems livelier. It seems almost as if everyone's actually coming out and having a better time. Odd in how that sounds, but you make your way down and you see that large amounts of cargo are being brought into the medium-sized town, and this people have got lively again. Goods have been delivered here and there. Your boat is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Although, Magnus, you could roll a gossip test as you are down at the docks, talking to the men down there or the people around.
Is this working now?
I can hear you.
Hello.
We can't hear you.
Jim,
You
I'm
know?
gonna slap you.
Discord did have a problem yesterday when we were doing our game, but seems to be fine on my end.
It feels good now.
Can you give me a gossip test?
I can certainly attempt. Come on, roll 20.
Oh, is Roll20 having a moment?
feels like my laptop is having a moment in general.
Ooh.
You have just dropped out of the game, so it is quite possible.
Is it plugged in? Hello.
Hello?
Hello!
Okay, your Discord is still
Yeah.
working then. Sadly, still no roll.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I
Right.
don't have a role for you on my screen. Does anyone else? Or is it just me?
No.
I don't see Magness in the player list.
Yeah, dude, Jazina, you may need to refresh your page. Well, when we get there, we will. I believe that would actually be all of you.
Hmm?
I believe that's all of you. Ah, Magness has entered the game.
It's still thinking about it.
This was 40k. I could make Omnisci quips, but it's not. We don't have computers in the old world.
Sorry, the gods are waiting to take your call at the moment. Be patient.
Although I suppose Lustria might have computers if the old ones left any.
I mean, they could have. You never know with them old ones.
The lizardmen probably do have some, they just don't know what they are, because they use them as building blocks.
These tablets are very strange. Haven't realised that they open them up. It's a laptop.
No, they have legit tablets, and they're treating them like stone tablets.
I can imagine just etching the iPad.
The new DLC for Warhammer is supposed to be lizard-based.
They were confirming it, then denying it, then denying it again, and officially they're not in the same universe.
Yeah, it's what we make of it, the consumers. So Magnus,
Same multiverse.
as you see people unloading cargo, you talk to a couple of the deckhands.
Oh, so it did roll now.
Yeah, it did. You get a word from the guys from the ship, and they tell you that, you know, as soon as they got word, they began unloading some of the better cargo for Gale. And as you like leave and okay, well, my ship's fine, and you chat to a couple of people as you're walking up, you hear that the infusion of cargo and some quite luxurious cargo has been made available to the town at really reasonable prices. A few people even tell you about how they could make a decent bit of coin on some of the cargo that has been delivered into the market, being sold by Lord Gale's house. You also hear some rumours and some hushed words, and people who are still clearly not as happy, talking about the hamlets down south that no one's heard from. You hear, as you're walking through and, you know, checking out some of the things at the stalls, you hear people talking about, oh, I hope my loved ones, my family down south or southeast are doing okay. We haven't seen any traders coming in from there. Hopefully the Lord will send his men out to check, and surely he will soon, as the bailiff needs to take his rounds. Apart from that, you get back to the back to the villa with an hour to spare, putting your feet up or getting a snack or a drink. 4 hours have passed now, as you've all done something or other. You all head back, or if you are outside in the grounds, one of the staff finds you shortly after 4 hours and informs you that the lords wish to see your party, and you head back. In the villa, about an extra half an hour has passed as you have all gathered outside. One of the ladies from yesterday, one of the servants, comes in and gives you all a curtsy. My lord Galleon wishes to see you all, along with your lord Humperdinck. This way, please. I'll lead you to the afternoon room. You all step in line, I guess, and are led through the castle into another room, the afternoon room. However, as you are led through a smoking room, a billiards room, a games room, which you kind of look at the billiards room and the games room and they kind of look the same. But hey ho, the servant is, and this is my lord's games parlour. This is my lord's smoking room. This is my lord's armoury. And as you step in, you see an array of different weapons. Some of these clearly antiques and not more there for show, but others are very much suits of armour. Shields with Lord Galleon's house sigil on. There's a couple of pieces there that Blackhand you would immediately be drawn to, as there appears to be half a suit of plate armour with dwarvic runes inscribed into them. You can see that there's the chest piece and the greaves. There's no hand.
And I recognize the piece with dwarvish runes.
You know they're dwarvish runes. You don't know what runes they are. It's definitely human plate. It's mastercrafted human plate. It's all right to you. You've seen much better being a dwarf. But you look at it and it is fairly, it is fine. You give it a little ting, to listen to the ring of the iron, and it's fairly good iron. It's got a decent ring to it.
Can I write the runes down?
No, that's not something. You would know that you can't just write the runes down and be able to use them. The runes are...
it's more to investigate them later, since I don't recognize them.
So you'd be able to read... actually, no, you wouldn't. You can't... so do you have... In fact, I know you don't. You would need... this is an ancient Dwarvic language. The rune lords speak ancient Dwarvish. It's not common dwarf. It's essentially the speak magic languages for mages, but it's Dwarvic. So if you see those, if you're told what those runes are, you could read them, or if you see them in a dwarven book of runes, which you probably would never see. Well, they're not telling you how they're made, just how they're spoke, what they say. So you might do. You'd be able to recognise them. I'm not saying that you can't recognise them and you'd never be able to read, but you don't know what it is. It's like if you were shown Japanese.
Yeah, I'm not trying to understand it. I'm just trying to copy it down so we can investigate it later.
Yeah, you don't need to write it down. You can memorize the
Okay.
the way that the runes are placed. It's just that's like trying to speak Latin. Only a set number of people speak it. For the rest of you, it's just a dead language essentially. But you recognise them. You have memorised them. The arms. Hang on, have I got that right? Anyway, the arms and the head are all missing. It's only the chest piece and the legs that are there on the stand. The rest of the weapons in the room are normal. They're some of them are master crafted, but there's no like rifles, or this is just spears, swords, maces, and the like. They all seem to be in pride of place, however. As you are led out of the armory, you're led into the afternoon room. In the afternoon room, you see Lord Gallion. He is stood up speaking to another individual. You see Lord Maelius stood by the fire, by the grand fireplace. The room itself is very large, very bright. It appears as if the sun is just in the right place to illuminate this room, to make everything have this eerie crispness with the way that the light is shining in. A very tall ceiling. There are some hunting trophies that are placed on the walls, and other pieces of art, and different doodads and trinkets from different areas from around the world. Lord Maelius is currently smoking a cigar of some type. He's leaning up against the fireplace and looking at some trinket on the mantle of the fireplace. As the servant opens the door and presents you all, he enters and, "My lords," does a very low, ladylike curtsy. "I present to you your warband." Excellent. It was about time that we got this underway. Don't you think, Gale?
Oh yes. It is. One moment. I will be with you. 1 second. It is about time that you and I were able to bring one of our dreams to light. I have always said, Maelius, that you were a man of renown and smarts that your cunning are able to hide from those that you wish not to see.
No, just enough of that. I will not have any more words. They will inflate my already great self. He kind of pats on his great self. Now, without further ado, to all of you here, I have come up with, we have come up with the idea that perhaps it is about time that I, as a von Humperdinck, did more than what I have been doing. And I think the best way to achieve that is to have a warband, a group of renowned individuals who, one day renowned individuals, as he gestures to you all, with my backing and your thinking and adaptability and the other elements that you have all shown.
Does it come with an upgrade? I wave my crossbow.
In due time, I'm sure that once renowned comes, that great wealth and riches shall indeed follow. To this end, Gale cuts him off. I have dreamed of this day for my esteemed friend, and I have been preparing
as such. Sadly, Malleus, your numbers are a bit small, but for now, I suppose that you'll have to get someone else to fit the other uniforms. But for all of you, I present Lord Malleus's uniforms. And as he says this, two, a male and a female servant, come out dressed. They are dressed in a essentially, if you think of the uniform from Sharp that Sharp wears, so this is a black uniform. It is padded. The uniform itself, when worn on its own, will give you the same armor as light armor. However, if you wear light armor on top, they cancel each other out. They don't stack, but you can stack them if you wish. It is black with green and red accents. It has I believe, unless I got this wrong, it has the colours of Hochland. It doesn't have a hat of any type. It merely has the uniform itself with several buttons, and I don't really know how to describe Sharp's uniform. It's a difficult one. I will have to get some photos, some images through.
Sharp company?
Yes, from the TV series.
How do I write it down in the mechanical wise? Only body, arms, legs included? Or...
It's the whole body. It's got it's the top, yeah, whole body except from the head.
And how is it called exactly?
It's a uniform. I mean, that's what it comes under. It doesn't really have a name. You can call it warband uniform if you wish. I'm just about to... There you go.
Our warband doesn't have a name yet?
No, certainly doesn't. So it looks like that, except from with you don't have the red belt. No, sorry. You have a green belt, but you have red trim in different areas, like along the collar has a red thread that runs round the edge of the material. I don't think I can put images into chat. No, I can't. So sadly, the viewers out there will have to see nothing. But you can Google it. As the two are presented, you see that there is a definite difference between the male and female. But they are both respectable uniforms that for some of you look at and you think, wow, this would actually be quite sharp, quite nice. This would be yeah, well. For others of you, probably the elves, really, it's not a particularly nice material. It's not particularly, we don't have any noble humans or dwarves. Sadly, craftsmen don't count.
Hey.
The fact you're using Sharp as a reference, and he's played by Sean Bean, does not bode well.
Yeah, Shambi always dies. That's not a
Yeah.
good. Unless he doesn't in this, because there have been a few series where he doesn't die.
No, I don't think he does.
Surprised me
I
a
think
lot.
that's before his death spree starts.
Oh.
I think it is anyway.
He dies in this one, or he does not?
No, he doesn't. As far as I'm aware.
Okay. Well, that's huh.
Well, he lives for like 100 and something years. It's fine.
Jesus.
Like when you look at the times, well, it's not 105. It's
for 80 years, but he fights in every battle that England ever fought back then. It's like, You've gone to India now. You're now in France fighting Napoleon, and now you're okay. Surely you should be dead. So you were presented.
Don't ask questions.
You were presented with these uniforms, and you were told that in the next couple of hours you will all be fitted, and measurements will be taken, and the uniforms will be fitted to your bespoke persons. But before any of that happens, well, we should carry on with the other business. At the moment, we have plans. This evening we will be seeing an opera, and a play which is well known in this region at the very least. He kind of gives Gale an eye, but Gale doesn't seem to be all that fussed about it. It'll be a good laugh to be out with you, Malleus. But the performance, I could leave. Oh, nonsense! There'll be many a minor noble there, and I'm sure it will be a good gay time, Gale. It'll be fine, I'm sure. But there have been issues in Gale's region, and I believe that it would be a good idea for us to aid him, as he is my oldest and dearest friend. On that side, tomorrow, you will all be leaving with Reese, was it? Duca.
That's me.
Lord Malleus gestures to you. You'll be leaving with Reese, with Gale's bailiff and taxman. He will be doing his rounds, and with all the attacks at the rural peasantry hovel. Well, they are hovels, aren't they, Gale? That's not what we call them. It's been so long. Yeah, hovels. Why not? Anyway. He would normally be doing his tax run anyway, but rather than doing the larger settlements first, he will go out to the smaller settlements, and there you will assist him in his investigation of what has happened. Plus, we may find out what happened to the goods that were meant to go to auction, which would obviously would make my esteemed friends here his reputation improve ever so slightly.
I do want a salary raise, if possible, please.
Well, I would be amiss to not to go back on the contract that we already have, Master Blackhand. But in Nullen, I assure you, we will write up a new contract. Perhaps as if you all accept the warband name, then perhaps you'll be given a weekly payment. Perhaps. We will have to see.
Sure.
Malleus,
We will see.
you did mention that you were going to allow me to have some of your iron that you acquired. Should I not give them their fair share that you mentioned last night? Oh, well, if you think it's best to be given now, then by all means, Gale. Well, they may wish to equip themselves somewhat better for their mission ahead. Gale gestures to one of the servants. The servant goes over to a little hatch, opens it, puts a note in, and closes it, and stands there. A few moments pass, and a small ringing can be heard from that area. She opens the hatch and pulls out a small chest, comes over and places it down on a table next to her lord. He opens the chest. There's 50 gold pieces. Sadly, my Lord Maelius has done me a favour. Thus, your profits were dropped somewhat. However, I will be assisting somewhat. Someone else will be joining your party at one point, but his work is not done yet. So he has opportunities to complete, and opportunities. Oh, shut up, Maelius. Well, anyway, you have been given a small reward. I will mention that it is not all the iron. I am reasonable in that respect. But yes, there will be some time for you to prepare for the opera later on. Me and Gale here are going to go and prepare ourselves. We leave you in the hands of Reese. He will be accompanying us to the opera. He has done well for his lord, from what I've been told, so he deserves a reward. Lord Maelius and Gale both look pleased with themselves with what has been discussed, and unless anyone stops them, they will leave. So you are left. Lord Maelius and Gale leave. You are left with this new individual who stands before you. There are a couple of servants who are taking round tea and other beverages, and a tailor enters, who places other servants place out his tailoring equipment that he needs to measurements and things like that nature, and one by one you will get measured. Reese, you are currently in the presence of, I believe, 2 humans, 1 dwarf, and 2 elves. The elves, as far as I have been told, are stunningly beautiful. One is more beautiful than the other, but she has more scars than the less attractive one. But from your opinion, you would easily say that they're both 9s, but perhaps that's just the pointy ears. Who knows?
Oh God, you did not. Oh.
Hey man, it's a human in Warhammer Fantasy who's meeting an elf. There's got to be.
Pointy ear fetish.
Alpha rhymes with arrow.
You promised we wouldn't run into him until noon.
He isn't even the one.
No worries, we'll burn the brothels later.
I should just shut up.
So Reese is the alpha herd. I see.
He's
He's
not actually. I was just describing your characters. So for a human in the old world, it is a shock to meet an elf. You must remember that wood elves are extremely isolationists. They don't go wandering about the human land. and the High Elves are too far away to give a shit. So this region, even though they're so close to the Elven lands, people here have probably never seen an elf. So,
Fair, fair.
if they actually saw a really attractive elf, they might be like, hot damn, wow, I wonder why you two were kicked out of forest.
Wow. Jesus. Hurtful.
I have to be. I said something nice about elves, so I had to say something hurtful.
You're a smart man.
He's still in character. For a storm. Wait, so just to make sure then, I haven't been introduced. I mean...
You've been introduced in the slightest sense because they're nobles. They're not going to properly introduce you because you do work for Gale, but you are a high member of his court. You are the bailiff or his taxman, which means that he trusts you with his money. That's pretty important for nobles anyway. But they haven't actually introduced themselves to you.
I have a feeling the only thing I've heard about them is a rumor going around amongst their staff that they're gay.
No, from the staff, you would have actually heard good things. If you did do some investigating from last night, when your lord would have informed you of what you were doing. Not last night, this morning, this afternoon. The staff here speak well of them. You would have noticed a change in your lord's attitude and behaviour since Lord Malleus has arrived. And the staff say it's Lord Malleus and his men. They've changed our lord's outlook on life, and for the better. If you speak to the people on the boat, their story's a little different. The humans are all right. The dwarf is perfectly fine. They don't trust the elves. Well, one of the elves is a child killer, and has no. You shot a child like in front of all the.
You get
all
it
the
all
men.
wrong. She
I shot 4 childs.
True.
I shot 4 childs, and that was necessary, damn it.
True, but the crew didn't see the others. They saw that one, and the fact that
Mate, you're the one
you
keeping
didn't
tally.
ask, you literally just went, "Oh, that child's sick." Knock. Pew! Yeah, it's dead. Okay, move on. They would, yeah. So you would know that one of the elves is definitely bit mental, perhaps, a bit psychopathic, but it's difficult because the staff are telling you one thing, and Lord Malleus's or Lord von Humperdinck's men are telling you a different thing.
Did they also tell him about the serf we kicked out to die?
Yeah, there's discussion of. So from the men that there is a rumor going about that perhaps, because the rest of them did also vote to be like, nah, let's kick those two out. That maybe there was some harsh actions that perhaps shouldn't have been taken. They're a bit more shady about that. You'd need to roll to find someone loose enough to just tell you that. But
Like, if they didn't want to sleep out in the rain, they shouldn't have drank,
corpse juice.
They shouldn't have ate dead juice.
Well, Livia does feel bad about that, by the way. Somewhat.
I do too. Actually.
I really don't feel anything.
See, psychopath.
It was his own damn fault for not being careful. I did try to keep him alive, but
So there's odd things being told about these individuals. But you have spent some time, you would have spent the last half an hour with Malleus and Gale, and you have seen the difference in Gale. He is a reborn person. He was paranoid and obsessed with numbers and with having like he had dream catchers all over his house, and he had wind chimes, and he had some weird idol on the north gate, and you were aware of all these things, but he's your lord. You don't. Yes, my lord. Very well, my lord. Here's the money, my lord. Oh, I get a reward. Brilliant. But he has changed since then. And you're going to the opera.
Just to be doubly sure, each of us got 50 gold?
Yep.
Okay. I need another 100.
Money. I'm closer now. Not quite yet.
Was it 50 each?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Well, can I go shopping right now, or...?
No. So you'll be able to go shopping tomorrow morning before you set off. If there's anything really specialist that you want, you can ask, and it might be prepared for you. But yeah, the next few hours will be you getting ready, getting into your uniforms, and then going to the opera.
Okay.
Will the uniforms interfere with spellcasting?
You will need
What
to.
are these
You
uniforms?
will
Believe
need to
the light armor
mention.
knows.
You'll need to mention to the because obviously Malleus himself isn't 100% on who's a spellcaster and who isn't. Because some of you do use weapons as well. So you'd need to let them know. If you let them know, they will remove the padding, so you don't take a negative to your spellcasting. But then it loses its 1 protection.
Okay.
So, just to confirm, the armor does not stack, but it's basically a leather armor that goes over all armor, correct?
Yes. Essentially, you can, if you choose, you can put these uniforms away and only wear them when, special occasions, when you all want to look like you match and you're presentable for Lord Malleus. You would all have 1 armor. So if you were taken to, the opera, for example, or a fancy meal with a noble, you would all have 1 armor. But in those circumstances, you wouldn't be allowed to wear full plate or anything unless you were doing it to show off Lord Malleus's wealth. If he had paid for the full plate, then he might want you to be an exhibition. Or, yes, I was so wealthy I paid for... But for out of those times, you will just be in your uniforms. So this will give you a bit of protection.
It's only 15 encumbrance because it's a uniform?
Yes, that's right.
Does this cover the head?
No.
So legs, arms, and body.
Yeah.
I'll take my skull cap off.
I'll use it when I have to. I won't use it the entire time. I already have a full leather armor. Actually, I will use it.
You will all be expected to wear it for the opera. That's just what you'll get told. So you're all able to be presented as Lord Malleus's new warband.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Could I have asked for one of the servants to go after a blunderbuss?
Yes, one of the servants could go down to the trader and order it in and get it ready for you to be delivered. Sure, they could do that.
All right, I will need to do some maths.
No worries. A couple of hours pass. Do any of you want to talk to each other during that time, or do you just want to skip ahead?
I'll go shop. So that's what I will do.
No, so in that time, Albie, you'll be getting fitted for your uniforms, and out of that time, you're just stood around in the room, waiting.
Could I ask a servant or whatever to fetch to go to, if they're going in to buy a blunderbuss, can they go purchase me a writing kit?
Sure. Yep, that can be arranged. And the servant will. Actually, I'll tell you what. The servant will bring the goods back. I think they're all scarce items, so they'd be in town. So yeah, the servant just needs to go into town and bring them back.
See a writing kit is it? Average. Oh, you're correct.
So then, a few hours pass. You are all fitted into your uniforms. You were told your blunderbuss arrives. Your riding kit arrives. You will be told, Blackhand, that you can't take a blunderbuss into the opera. That's going a little bit too far, but you can leave it in there. So the opera house has its own security. No weapons for peasants, straight out. For gentlemen, nobles, and some of their guards, you may carry a sword, a dagger, a shield. You may carry a bow, but you are only allowed to take 5 arrows with you to prevent you from trying to shoot someone else. If you only have 5 arrows, you technically only kill 5 people. Yeah.
It's minimizing casualties,
Yeah.
okay?
You could always reuse.
What if we get them all lined up?
Yeah, they're humans. They're not thinking about elven archers here. Obviously, no
My
firearms.
stick be alright.
Your stick would be fine. No firearms except from of nobility. So if a noble wants to have a gun, that's fine. Obviously, they are requested to not point it at anyone under any circumstances, but only very, if you would be so kind, my lord, not to point your firearm at anyone. It could raise alarms, and then the opera would be ruined. Sometimes they do that just out of spite, but we'll have to see. Maelius isn't that drunk.
Humperdinck could bring his Hawkland long rifle.
I was aiming at the wall. It's not my fault he stepped in front of it.
As for armor, no plate and no chain, because it could jingle or be knocked, unless the noble has specifically asked for it, and Maelius and Gale haven't asked for it.
Okay then.
So, you are all dressed in your finest, arranged at the grand staircase, as it's a twin staircase. You would see that Gale is on one end and Maelius on the other. Absolutely splendid, covered in gold jewelries and fur-trimmed cloaks. They look quite regal at this moment. Their clothing is of the finest quality that some of you have ever seen. Maelius, at this moment in time, continues to smoke cigars, whereas Gale has opted for a pipe. Both of them have essentially pimp canes, with large jewels on the end, at the top. They make their way down, and they don't say anything to you. However, Reese, you are also there. You know this protocol, Reese. As your lord steps in front of you, he doesn't even gesture at you, and you understand that he takes 5 steps in front of you, and then you pull in behind. Can the rest of you roll me fellowship? None of you are of nobility, so none of you have the skills, the born talent of these sorts of procedures. Casper, as you watch Reese fall in line, you remember seeing nobility as they leave, and how all their servants and manlings and hirelings would fall into line. You think that's kind of what's implied here. Livia, you too remember seeing elven nobilities, nobles, leaving parties, and their escort would fall in behind at a set distance, close enough to be heard if needed, but far enough away that you can't eavesdrop on the nobles' conversation.
Okay.
Do you two quickly fall in line and gesture at the others, or do you just...
Yeah, I'll try to do that and try to show the others.
Livia is trying really hard to fit in.
I'll just sigh.
Don't know if this is right, but just do it anyway.
I'll just sigh
Rizos
and
is just... He's not really trying very hard, he's just being fairly casual. But he's not like walking in a posh manner or anything, he's just walking in a comfortable, sort of shrugs shoulders, head a little bit low. A little bit of an unsocial way.
As you all fall in line, some of you not quite catching on as quickly as the others, but you kind of get the idea. You fall in line. As you exit the mansion, the castle, the estate, you would see that there are 3 carriages set up. The servants open one carriage for Malleus and Gale, and they both get in. One of the other servants closes the closest door to you, comes over quickly, and if you all enter this carriage, please. The other one is for the guards for the carriages. She quickly goes over to the door, opens it. It's a bit of a squeeze for you all to fit in there, to be honest. But whoever gets in last would see that some of Gale's house guards get into the other carriage. After a short, yet cramped journey, you make your way into town, and you are at the Opera House. As you look outside, it is starting to get dark now. It is about sunset. There's about 15 minutes before the day's light has faded. You can see that there are lots of people out. A surprising number of people, in fact. As you actually come to the Opera House, you can see that the 2 taverns are roiling of activity. There's people in the fancier, more noble one, and in the poorer one, there's people congregating. There's food stands, and there's meats being cooked, and there's jugglers and performers, and this really does seem to be an event for this town. As you all exit, the coach drivers have already come down and opened the doors for Gale and Malius. You would, as you all have the door opened and exit, you'd all see that many smaller merchants and minor nobles all look over and it's Malius, right, putting down drinks and coming over, and different foods are brought to them. You'd note that many of the peasantry actually offer it to Gale, hoping that he will try and actually like. He's not in the biggest eating mood. He takes a couple of meat sticks and tries it and kind of agrees, spitting out a bit of gristle, whereas Malius takes a fair few of the meat sticks that are offered and takes great whopping bites of meat and gristle and all. It's a hive. If you'd like to buy any snacks, you can. They are 5 copper a piece. Basically, it's meat on a stick. Otherwise,
I don't.
Okay, so 235 pennies.
Really will for most part just ignore the vendors, but she will be keeping an eye for, concealed weapons and stuff like that.
That was an ungodly amount of pennies I got back in change.
Fortunately, this is a special event for the town and for the community. All the meat that is being sold next to the auction house, it tastes like meat. For any of you who buy it, perhaps it's lamb, maybe beef. It's at least one of the two.
Maybe something. How to taste the difference between lamb and beef?
Would.
Unless it's ruined that much.
Yeah, no, it's why I said lamb and beef, because they're quite distinctive. You can definitely tell they come from livestock. There's nothing dodgy about this. It's not rat and it's not person. And it's not beastman
What should
or
be like a chaos cult and it's beastman meat?
Rather than that, it's baby meat. Ugh.
you make
Can you eat beastmen?
Skaven
You
do.
can eat anything.
It's ill-advised, but you probably can.
You'll
Skaven
probably get mutations.
do. Orcs do.
Probably. Yeah, but orcs eat almost everything.
I mean, your argument went out of sanity when you mentioned orcs.
Orcs are intelligent and civilized people, don't you know?
I said insanity. I didn't say intelligence.
Civilized people.
So you make your way
They
into
believe
the.
things into existence.
You make your way
Enough said.
into the auction house, into the opera house. As you make your way in, you are quite impressed that this is not a large town or city, but the auction house is quite spectacular. You were led into a fine parlour where there are staff there gesturing towards people. Nobility they welcome with open hands. The poor are crammed into small cubicles where they have to pay and then are let through and checked rigidly for any concealed weapons or foods. As
Then they have to pay again.
they pay their pennies and are let in as a horde. The chairs at the front in the image would not be there. This is more like a cattle pen, and there is a small fence that encloses the poor in their their pen. You are all
The best place.
you are all gestured to make your way up into the finer areas, into the arches. Looking down, there are far less chairs in the actual opera house than in the image. The upper rows are plush and luxurious. There are servants for each noble who sits down, and each noble there is a fine armchair. Maelius and Gale take their seats and are given fine glasses of wine and delectable little treats to nibble on until the show begins. Maelius still enjoying the last of his meat sticks as he mentions that a brandy would be perfect for this kind of event. And before long, brandies are poured. You watch as the lower cattle pens, the peanut gallery, is filled. The peasants are crammed in, all excited and jeering, and you can see the nobles all rest over the side rails, gesturing at the poor and the dirty and unclean, and look at them how they squabble and fight. And you watch as I don't know what they'd be called. Let's call them valets for now. As members of the opera come out with bread baskets full of ripped bread, they chuck it into the peasants' corral, and you see small fights break out between the peasants as they scrabble for a piece of bread that is chucked in, and the nobility laugh and place bets on certain individuals who are getting a little bit feistier than others.
Oh God, is this what our life has come to?
Before long, it's about 15 minutes of everyone entering, essentially 15 minutes from when Gale and Maelius arrive, that the lights begin to drop, and a member of the opera comes out of the play, comes out and says, 10 minutes until the performance begins, please take your seats. 10 minutes until you would see that three other people come out, big burly men, armed with clubs and cudgels, and they actually go down on their hunches on the small walkways and just stare at the peasantry. You notice that the peasantry all, the fighting and the arguing quietens down as they just have these massive men on their haunches with beating sticks in hand. 5 minutes pass and the first act begins. You were told of a brave warrior, a warrior of great renown. The warrior was true and noble and fought for Seoul and Westland. Do you hear about how this warrior, who grew to such great renown that he was given lands, riches, goods that no man could ask for more, but he wanted more and more and more. He was never happy or content. Every battle, every victory was nothing to him. The more lands he acquired were never enough, until one day he put down his sword and returned to his lands. There he witnessed the nobility, a party of another lord. This lord had lands on the neighbouring province. He was of Seoul, and the man was of Westlands. The warrior was of Seoul, and the noble was of the Westlands. The noble had a grand party, to all the nobles of Westland and Seoul were invited. And at that party, a young maiden was brought into adulthood. Her parents had used this noble's party to show off their now their no longer daughter and now a woman into the noble ranks. The noble who had put on the party, fell in love immediately. He thought that there was no woman who was as beautiful as she, and he would give anything. He would take up any challenge if she would just hear him out, spend a little time. And you see as the peasantry are essentially made to as the large men watching them begin to say stuff. You can see the men say, essentially, if you, I'll give it to you. You can see them say ah, and then the club gets raised.
It's like in Shrek. There's this one just with the cards.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, no, because they can't read. They're peasants, so they just say quietly, say ah, and the peasants reply. But the warrior was there. The warrior didn't care. He came into the party as if this land was his own. He showed no respect, no gratitude, nothing. He took the food and drank the wine. And when he saw the young woman, he declared that this was his prize. He had saved these lands and fought and bled, and nothing had slated his thirst for what he deserved. And he challenged the Lord to a fight in combat, knowing that the Lord was no match. Rather than fight, the noble backed down. He allowed his beloved to be taken, but with a solemn vow. I will make your deeds known, villain. You are no hero. You are evil and villainous, and you will not have this day. The young lady who had very little option, the warrior had lands to give and riches of thousands. She was bought and sold. He took her away with an evil look and an intense dread came over all at the party that day. The noble did not give up in his plight. He stood strong in his defiance against the warrior and raised an army. He would not allow his beloved to be in the hands of that monster. He pleaded with the lords, the nobles and kings, and little by little support was raised. An army grew, so large it could not be defeated, and he marched upon the warriors' lands. They were shocked at what they saw. The lands were not cared for, the peasantry dead, the livestock diseased, rotten and dead. When they came to the warriors' hold, it was but ruins, broken and rubble. But there was still hope. The sounds of a lone woman crying. Blackhand. Guess what, buddy?
Willpower.
Willpower minus 20.
This is one hell of a trip you're on.
Told you. You should have not gone into the Super
Told
8
you you shouldn't
wagon.
have sniffed the mirror. I told you.
You went into the Super 8 wagon. This is what you get.
You sniffed the mirror. What did you expect to happen?
Super 8 wagon. Do I have to say more?
Sniff it, as far as I know.
Sniff the mirror. Why would you sniff a mirror?
Like when you mellowed him down, you just sniffed the dust. Yeah.
So, Blackhand, as you watch the performance, your vision goes fuzzy.
Oh boy.
And
Shit, these guys dropped.
have we lost someone? Sorry, I don't get notifications through. I don't get the noise anymore.
That's 'cause it'll be
I can get the
Everyone
list.
is here.
Everyone
No.
is here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Blackhand, your vision goes funny. You reach into your chest, into your pocket, and you pull out a golden mirror. Only this time, no vision takes hold of you. Your vision now clears. But you see what looks like the woman on the stage now. She stands next to the actor of the warrior, and she looks at him with longing and love. And as the actors make out as if the noble is the one who had his love taken, she just looks with disgust and shakes her head. She goes to hug the actor playing the warrior, but her arms just pass through him. You begin to get a feeling inside Blackhand that was not actually expected. You begin to feel as if someone is slandering your family, as if a dear member of your family is being slandered, as if lies are being told about them. There's an anger that is growing slowly inside of you as the performance continues. The army reaches the warrior's hold, and they hear the cry of a woman. The noble rushes up with his bravest men, up a ruined tower. And in that tower, they find the man, the warrior, beating the woman. Jesus, the fuck me, that one's big.
She grew in that while.
It's the problem when you get when you get tokens from different people. Anyway, we won't use that. The woman is beaten, the warrior with a whip. A crack and a scream. Noble stands forth. I will have my day. You will not carry on with this, you heathen. I have come with an army at my back. You cannot win. The warrior doesn't even stop. He carries on, cracking the whip as the noble's men descend. They draw their weapons and rush in as the whip cracks again. Blades are pushed through. He sits there with blood running down his mouth and smiles. 1,000 lives I take. You think I'm owed just one? For every crack of my whip, another life I've won. Crack! The men around seem scared and frightened. They drop their weapons, yet still penetrating the warrior. The noble steps forth, and with a swing of his sword, the head comes off, and the warrior is no more. At this, Blackhand, you see the woman break down in tears. Just the image, her ghostly form, screaming out, crying. You can almost hear the words resonating in your mind, but you can't quite hear them. These are not the words. These are not the actions of an abused individual. Sorrow in your heart grows, and anger is fueled by that sorrow. The play continues. The noble claims the young maiden and makes a big performance of looking after her and her never being afraid again. The audience will cheer out and cry as you see individuals chucking pennies into the crowd, bronze pennies. Yeah, woo, yeah! Clapping and applause go out through the crowd as the nobles look so proud of themselves. You watch as the nobles disappear. The woman goes with them as the actor playing the warrior rises from the floor. I will not die this day. I've taken 1,000 lives. For every crack of the whip I win yet another. Another. And I say I never die. You see other actors come running out now as skeletons. And lynches and zombies. I have an army at my back now. You think yours can beat mine? I will show you nothing but suffering. You watch as peasants are brought on and slaughtered and slain. You watch as some of the nobles from the party are brought on with guards, but they cannot withstand the hordes at the back of the now undead warrior, and they are slain. The last to come out is the noble himself. He is surrounded by knights of paladin class, clad in plate, with a priest at their side. You may have killed so many heathen, abomination, but I have God on my side. A battle pursues.
Seymour.
No, sadly
Listen
not.
to song and dance.
Battle pursues, and by the end, there lays just one man standing. The noble. As he returns home, his beloved is dead, killed by a curse placed by the undead warrior. At this, all the peasants begin to sob. They're they're so sad. And the performance comes to an end.
She dies.
And the leader of the performance comes out, and that has been the noble dancing, the noble dance of the honourable prince. All the performers come out, and they all bow down, and everyone cheers, and a few more pennies are thrown into the peasants' pen. And as the performance ends and some people begin to leave, some of the peasants begin to fight, and some of the nobility begin to place bets again and watch them. Casper. Throughout the performance, this rings a bell with you, but all the actors are in the wrong place. This is very much like the story you read, but reversed the roles. The roles were reversed. Blackhand, as you see the woman cry, and then the prince arises as an undead, she begins smashing her hands against the floor, screaming and writhing. Towards the end, she gets up during the battle, and you can see her just striking the noble, kicking and punching and clawing, but her hands just go through, and she can't get a grasp. As the play ends, you are left with just this foul hatred towards the ones who have hurt your friends, your family, your loved ones.
Can I make a perception check, by the way, just in general?
Can I also make a perception check just to see if I can realize Blackhand is on a drug trip?
You guys carry on. I'm gonna call it a night for now.
Okay.
Just
Essentially,
carry on with me.
where the performance ends, that will be where we're calling it. So you can do your roles now to see if you noticed anything. So there would be negatives because of what's going on, but for Aurelia and Reese, you both notice the dwarf holding his hand out.
I'm gonna catch you later.
Question.
Good night, guys.
See you, dude.
Right. Question. Question.
Cool.
Was you stopping the kidnapper or the rescuer?
So she was fighting the noble, not the warrior. The warrior she showed nothing but love towards, and she was devastated at his death. And when they showed him bringing an undead army, she was in hatred and just utter disgusted at that. And then during the battle, she attacked the noble, who in the play they showed as being the hero. So Aurelia and Reese, you see the dwarf holding his hand out as if he is holding something precious. And throughout the performance, you see him watching open stage. There are actors to the left and to the right, and he's staring at the middle. And a tear rolls down his eyes at one point as the actor is, as the hero is portrayed in a bad light. As the crowd begin to boo and hiss, you see a tear roll down, and later on another. And as the actor who is the hero dies, the warrior dies, weeping begins. When he arises as the undead, you can see Blackhand clenching his teeth as if he's just angry at something. And towards the end, he's just sat there, just someone who clearly just doesn't look happy, as if they've just had to watch something disgusting. And Blackhand...
How far away is the dwarf from me?
He's close. You were all in the same Lord's box. There are 2 seats in front of you where your 2 lords respectively sit, and then behind them are all of you.
I'll just look at the rest of the group to see if any of them are having a similar, and if not, I'll just make a mental note and continue on.
You really realize that he is having a drug trip, so she's like, what the fuck is going on with this dwarf right now?
Well, so far, no one's seen the mirror, except from Magness. He was the last person to see the mirror in the hotel where you guys all got drunk after the carnival was destroyed. So, as far as you know, I think this is the first time you've seen him acting like this.
Which is exactly why she finds it weird. He's like having a drug trip in the middle of an operation. She's like, this is not that good for you to have a drug trip, dwarf. What is wrong with you? And she doesn't say anything. She's observing him like going, what the...
And as the peasantry collect up the last of the pennies and the fighting dies down, you can see your respected lords enjoying the last of their cigars. They're talking about the performance, the peasants that they betted on. You would all see that, you would have all noticed that Malleus watched the performance. Gale, not so much. He kind of watched more of the peasants and the people around. And that is where we will end our episode. So, I hope you've all enjoyed this episode and are looking forward to the next one, where I can guarantee the group are going to be getting into some combat. Either rushing straight into it, or sneaking and doing some other stuff. Yeah, I hope you all look forward to that episode. Take care, everyone, and as always, bye-bye for now.
Yeah.